going to say in my talk right before I say it.
Dang it.
So the opening may sound a little redundant, but can anyone tell me what the American dream is? America. American dream. There's three things to the American dream. Three rights, if you will. Life.
Liberty.
Liberty. And the pursuit of happiness. No, that's property. That was Lenin. That was totally different. You kind of stole it and made it American. It doesn't matter. The point is, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So, as Brian mentioned, as Americans, we believe that we have the right to pursue happiness. That's a pretty interesting right? I mean, if you think about the other two, life and liberty kind of make sense, right? I mean, life, we all have the right to life, right? If you don't have the right to life, then I could just come up and just kill Nick right now, if he doesn't have the right to his life. I mean, I could. If he doesn't have that right, there's nothing to stop me. I mean, Nick hasn't upset me today, so it's not an issue. But the point is, without that right, I can do whatever I want with your life. Right? Liberty, the same thing. Right? Which is kind of weird. It's almost like a weird cyclical logic, if you really think about it, because we have the right to liberty, but without liberty, we don't have rights. And don't think about it too long, your head may explode. So just know that that one makes sense too. But the pursuit of happiness is really something unique, really kind of even a unique concept when it was adopted. Because for a long time, people didn't really necessarily think that we all have the right to the pursuit of happiness. Right? If you look at a lot of earlier sort of branches off in the Christian faith, a lot of them almost see happiness as a bad thing. It's a pursuit of pleasure, right? Which is, as I'll get into later, is actually not what we're called to. But really, there's nothing wrong with this idea of the pursuit of happiness. Who in here wants to be happy?
Right here.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, eventually this section over here wanted to be happy. I assume you guys all wanted to be happy. I just, you look like a happy section. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody in here wants to be happy. I'm hoping everyone in here wants to be happy. If you don't want to be happy, then, I don't know, you're probably in the wrong place. Because God is happiness. But that's interesting because I like, so for instance, who else wants you to be happy? I use it in quotes for a very specific reason. It's anyone who wants to sell you anything is the answer to that question. Right, if you look at any advertisement ever, okay, if you work as an advertising executive or a marketer at a company, and you get across the idea that buying your product will make someone happy, you will make a lot of money. Because that's their job, is to convince us that what they have to offer us will make us happy. That's really their ultimate goal. They may do it through other things, right? They may say, buy our shoes and you'll get all the chicks, and that'll make you happy. Or buy our car and you'll get all the power, and that'll make you happy. Or buy our products, our cosmetics, and it'll make you beautiful, and you'll get all the boys, and that'll make you happy. Right? They're all giving us all these different ideas of what happiness is. Really, our culture, since the day you were born, has been telling you what happiness is. And they've been telling you what happiness is so that they can help you achieve it, because that'll give them happiness. Because what makes them happy ultimately is your money. So, my question then is, what is happiness? Can anyone tell me what happiness is? Does anyone have a good definition for happiness? Oh, that's a completely sincere question. This isn't like a trick question, like, oh my gosh, did you just say that? No, like seriously, does anyone have like what they would define? How would you define happiness? So everyone in here wants to be happy, but no one in here knows what happiness is. Joseph knows what happiness is. Wait, where's Joseph?
Over there.
Over there.
Joseph knows what happiness is.
Oh, you want me to say it? Okay. Happiness is what each individual can find that makes us feel good.
Okay, that's nice. Round of applause. Good definition? Okay.
We're happy. Some of us are not happy by that, but we have our own types of happiness. Right?
Absolutely.
Like I like music, and maybe Matt likes math.
Maybe Matt hates music. Maybe music makes Matt angry. He likes silence.
Papa Bear?
Papa Bear, sorry. I apologize, Papa Bear. That porridge was too cold though, I'm telling you. So, it's cool, right? Papa was cold, Mama was hot. It doesn't matter. The point is, I think it was just right. So that's a pretty decent definition, right? Based on everything we've learned in our life, that's a pretty decent definition, right? Different people have different things that make them happy, and happiness is sort of this, makes you feel good. Right? That's a general, decent definition of happiness. Can anyone tell me why that's also a dangerous definition of happiness? Monica.
Because there could be certain things that make your body feel good, but then it could destroy you on the inside.
Right. So that's actually like the perfect. Monica actually is going to come up and give the rest of the talk. Please, Monica.
Momo moment.
Mic drop, but I'm not going to break the mic. But picture the mic drop that just happened. So, right. So in order for us to understand happiness, we have to be able to make a distinction. We have to be able to distinguish happiness from pleasure. Because how many people in here have ever felt pleasure? Again, little concerned with in and out. Right, and I'm talking about like, I don't know, like you got to sleep in on a day, so you felt good, right? Feeling good about it. How many people in here have ever felt good about something ever in their life? Still alarming. Okay. Well, hopefully one day when you're older, you'll understand what that sensation is, this pleasure we speak of. Now, how many people in here are always happy all the time? Well, Joseph actually is, and Marcy. Okay. Besides the like 3 people in the back who really are always happy all the time, is anyone else? And Jonah, of course, Sonia. We do have a couple people, right? But for the most part, most of us in here are not always happy all the time, right? But that doesn't make sense. If we've all felt pleasure, then why aren't we all happy? Because clearly, happiness and pleasure aren't the same thing. Right? Pleasure can be a part of happiness. Like Brian said, going to In-N-Out and eating a 4x4 animal style with animal style fries could be amazing. I actually don't like animal style, but I can picture it being amazing, right? And it can be very pleasurable, but then I will tell you 2 hours later it will not be as amazing, right? I will feel horrible, I'll look like this, and all of a sudden, now In-N-Out maybe wasn't such a pleasurable thing. Right, so pleasure, as many people have heard, is fleeting. Right, fleeting means it doesn't last forever. But there's a problem. Happiness, as a couple people in the room have shown, is a state. Right, I actually like, instead of the word happiness, one of my favorite words is joy. Because Jesus, I don't even think he ever really uses the word happiness, but he uses the word joy a lot. Right? Because joy, when you hear joy, it's a little bit different than happiness, right? Joy, you only think of joy as like a state, right? Like a state of being, right? I am joyful at the moment. I'm feeling a sense of joy, and it makes me joyful, right? Pleasure could be lasting however long. You don't really know, but joy is sort of a state of being. So, if joy is what we're really called to, how do we get there? Well, the problem is, it's not super easy. Right? And we'll get to that in a second, but I'll tell you what's the easiest way. The easiest way to trick yourself into thinking you found joy is pleasure. And if you look at all the sin out there, if you look at all the things that we can do wrong, most of it is not because we're bad people and want to do bad things. Things like, sex and drugs and alcohol, gossip, all of these things have strong foundations. The point of sex is to be a sign to us of God's love for us that we can express to each other through marriage. However, as soon as we turn that into a seeking of pleasure, and we focus on how can that give me pleasure, then all of a sudden it turns into lust, and we've taken it and we've turned it into something bad. Something beautiful, and we've turned it into something bad. Prescription drugs save people's lives on a daily basis, but when we abuse them to give us a sense of pleasure instead, we've taken that good thing and we make it bad. Newsflash, Jesus and his apostles drank wine. Alcohol's not bad in and of itself, but when you take it and you abuse it for your own personal gain, for that temporary pleasure at the time, then you've now taken something good and you've made it bad. Right? Our words. God gave us our words so we can communicate. When we use those words to tear people down, to swear, to gossip, whatever it is, we've taken that gift that God gave us, right? The reason we can speak is so that we can give glory to God. Right? Our job here on earth is to love God with all our hearts, all our soul, and all our minds, all our bodies, everything we have, right? Part of that's our mouth. That's why we have a mouth, so we can give glory to God, so we can bring others to God. When we take that mouth and we use it to tear people down, when we use it to detract, then we're taking a beautiful gift and we're abusing it. So why do we do that? Well, because pleasure is easier to attain than joy. Once again, joy is a state. Right? So what do you have to do to stay in a certain state? If you want to be somewhere and do something, what do you have to do? You have to maintain it, right? So to maintain a state of joy, you have to keep doing that thing that gave you joy. As I'll mention in the Beatitudes soon, that's not necessarily the easiest thing. But for pleasure, all you need to do is that one thing that leads to pleasure, right? And then you receive the pleasure. And then, yes, usually afterwards, that pleasure's gone, right? How many people have ever had that sort of like empty feeling? After you have, like I said, it could be the in and out moment, whatever it is, where you felt pleasure and then almost immediately after you felt horrible. Right? If pleasure is really what we're called to, then why would you feel that way? Because anytime we take something that's made for joy and we turn it in on ourselves for pleasure, it's always going to leave us empty. Because that's not what happiness is. So what I'm going to do, because I kind of know happiness and joy to a certain degree, but this one guy, Jesus, he knew it really well. So I'm going to use his words. He was a smart man. So, how many of you have ever heard or even heard of the Beatitudes? These things Jesus said, they're awesome. We're going to go over them. So, alright, so this is the Sermon on the Mount. Okay? And I love this because a lot of us, I think, maybe know the Beatitudes, but we don't necessarily know the context. So I'm going to read you the whole thing, 1 through 12, and I want you to sort of listen, not just to what the Beatitudes are, we'll go through that, but also listen to what Jesus is saying overall. So he says, when he saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after each had sat down, his disciples came to him. He began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of evil against you, falsely because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. Thus they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Now, he goes through a number of things here, but just about every single thing Jesus says here is completely countercultural. Right? Because no one wants to sell you meekness. Because, I don't know, I guess unless they're selling like hoodies that can cover you up and make you disappear, I don't know, that's not what they're looking for. They want you to be proud because they want you to identify yourself in your image. Right? So let's look at something. So blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Who in here wants to be poor? Okay, that's good. Right, okay, so we're getting there. I like this. I guess I need to ask the negative of the question, and that's how I get the audience participation. So, right, but Jesus says, right, of course, the culture is constantly telling you, right, everyone tells you, if you want to be happy, you need to be a success. right? Success leads to power, leads to riches, right? Jesus says, no, 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 no. Happiness is the opposite of that. Happiness is being poor in spirit. Poor in spirit as in not tied up in your image. Poor in spirit as in giving up all of those earthly desires. The desire for power and pride and everything that actually takes us away from our happiness. If you're truly poor in spirit, Jesus says, blessed are you for the kingdom of heaven, or yours is the kingdom of heaven. Right? Totally countercultural. Blessed are they who mourn. Right? What do you tend to do when you see someone who's upset about something? I don't know. I'm not a problem solver, so I try to make it better. Right? Because I don't like watching people mourn. I mean, I've gone through something fairly recently where I was mourning myself and surrounded by a lot of other people who were mourning, and it wasn't, at times it was fine, but it's not a very pleasant thing, just mourning in itself. But Jesus is saying, mourning is okay. Blessed are you who mourn, for you will be comforted. Don't be afraid of your mourning. Don't be afraid to feel. Jesus cried, he wept when he went to the tomb of Lazarus, his friend who had died, even though he knew he was going to raise him from the dead. Okay, Jesus says, and once again, counterculture, right? We're called to be strong. No, men don't cry. Whatever it is, it's still very countercultural. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. This one's just crazy in our world. The idea of being meek is just about as bad as you can be as an individual in our world, because we're all called to be strong, we're all called to stand up for. But Jesus once again is saying, not necessarily be meek, not necessarily just lay down and roll over for everybody, but to be meek of heart again, to not be proud in yourself, in and of yourself, but to be meek, to understand who you are, understand that we are sinners, and to allow God to work through us. And the same thing with the peacemakers. A number of these, right? So he goes on, I'm not going to go through every one for the sake of time, but it's a very countercultural idea, what Jesus is saying here. Right? He's not saying, blessed are those who drive a Mercedes and wear, Gucci sunglasses, for they will be the coolest guys in the club. No, that's not what Jesus says, right? We all already know that anyway. That's why I drive a Mercedes and have Gucci sunglasses, But I wish. But here's the kicker for me. Right? It's not that Jesus says, right? So he lists off these things. And I kind of look at this and I say, Jesus, that's not really the easiest way to be joyful. Like, if that's really what you're telling me to be happy, like, I can think of a million other things, like I said, momentary pleasures. I can just go to In-N-Out every day, Jesus. Like, I'll wait